I can't even say how old I am. It's hard for me to get out of my mouth.
To those who have expressed skepticism about how much you'll be on the trail or about the rest of your term, raise questions about your health, what do you say to them?
All I can say is watch.
So his exit from the race has not silenced his doubters. Biden arriving back at the White House from his Delaware beach house just a few moments ago. You can see it right there. Questions are still swirling over his fitness and stamina over the next 6 months. Let's bring in our panel. Fox News contributor Richard Fowler and Jessica Anderson of the Sentinel Action Fund. Great to see you both on a Monday. So Ross Douthat, he writes a column for the New York Times. He wrote, "There is still a Biden scandal." I just want to read this to you and get your take. Richard, we'll start with you. He says Biden is still the president, albeit with a scaled-down schedule for his last 6 months. The people who readily signed up for another 4 years of a 10-4 presidency are still running the government around him. We're getting the fulfillment of the bargain that was implicitly offered to Biden by his fellow Democrats, that by bowing out, he would trade the shadow of scandal for the halo of self-sacrifice and coast through the final days. And I think if you see we got this picture, of course, everybody has it too. They were at the beach this weekend, he and the First Lady. Richard, what about this concern? Everybody obviously can have an afternoon off at the beach, but we've got 6 months to go and there's a lot of problems.
There's no question there's a lot of problems, Dana, but we also see the president being very active in solving many of them. A couple weeks ago, we saw him get hostages released from the Russians. Right now, as we speak, we have a military unit of Navy ships moving into the region around Iran. We see him actively trying to negotiate a ceasefire. So this is not a president who's leisurely walking through the White House. This is a president that seems to be taking real action to try to deal with many of the issues affecting the American people. Beyond that, we now know on his schedule, he has an event scheduled with the vice president to talk about the cost of living. So there's a lot of things happening in this White House in the background of a vice president that's also running for the president of the United States.
Though, Jessica, he did the interview with CBS where he says basically it was clear that Nancy Pelosi thought I was going to crash the entire Democratic Party, and I didn't want to have that on my head, so I decided to get out. But why did she feel that way? And we know she felt that way because it became obvious to everybody what was happening with President Biden when we saw the debate. And so is it reasonable for people to wonder about Biden's capabilities to do this in the next 6 months?
It's completely reasonable, Dana, for us to be concerned. Let's remember, just because President Biden chose not to seek re-election doesn't mean the bipartisan chorus of concerns about his mental fitness and cognitive ability suddenly go away. He's the same president, the same man he was 6 months ago when you had Democrats and Republicans equally sharing their concerns. So I think the question now, Dana, becomes who knew about his cognitive decline internally and for how long? How did they cover it up? Obviously, the vice president, Harris, has had a front row seat and continues to have a front row seat watching this decline. And she's on the trail. Is she going to talk about it? Will she have a surprise announcement that she began to see concerns and then saw an opportunity for her to lead? Or is she going to continue to run as an incumbent, being held accountable for a broken economy and a failed border and not differentiating herself at all from Biden?
Instead of the basement campaign, I think of it as the hiding in plain sight campaign. We only have a minute left, so I'm going to give you each about 25 seconds to answer this question. Richard, how do you think Kamala Harris can win the week? And then Jessica, I'll ask you the same about Trump. Richard, you get to go first.
Listen, I think if she continues the momentum that she currently has, I think obviously we hear from the Harris campaign that they will be rolling out an economic message specifically focused around housing and making housing more affordable. I think if she continues to do that, we'll see her win the week, and the polls sort of show that the momentum seems to be on her side in this moment.
Jessica.
President Trump and J.D. Vance will win the week when they continue to talk about closing the border, making life safe and secure for all Americans, and bringing our economy back to the strength and veracity that it had when he was in office the first 2 years.
Do they have to get specific about that? If she's going to roll out an economic plan, we'll see how specific she is. But Jessica, are you looking for specifics?
Yes, I think President Trump can point to his first 2 years in office as the specifics. And I think he also needs to point out that Vice President Harris is in office right now. If she had a bold economic vision, why is she not doing it today?
Yeah, that's a good question. Good guess for this Monday morning is you helped me get back up to speed after a week off. Thanks, guys. See you soon.